Okay, so for the last part of this, I'm just going to focus on one strategy because we've already talked about two of them, and then you can go ahead and try some of these on your own. We've already talked about direct substitution. We've talked about factoring. The one thing that's left is this idea of rationalizing when you have a limit. So we'll look at that. So you had these that we did a lot of back in the fall, where we can't plug 0 in again because we get something that's 0 over 0 or something that just isn't going to work. So we do what we call rationalizing, and we multiplied by what we called the conjugate, and that was just taking whatever was in the numerator or wherever the radical was and multiplying by the thing that would make that thing a difference of squares. So instead of being -2 here, it's +2. And then you go through and you multiply this out. But remember, we just said we're intentionally doing this so that it's a difference of squares. So what's nice about a difference of squares is that the middle terms are always going to be 0. So when I multiply this out, I really only need to multiply these two things together. So square root of x plus 4 times itself is really saying square root of x plus 4 squared. So that ends up just being x plus 4. So we get x plus 4 from that. And then -2 times +2 is -4. Now, if you remember, we said don't multiply the denominator out, just leave it in its factored form, because what you're going to find is that that +4 and -4, they're going to become 0. So what I get is the limit as x approaches 0 of x over x times square root of x plus 4 plus 2. And then I've got a giant 1. Remember, that was the whole point of this process, was you should be able to get it to a point where you can multiply that or find that giant 1. Once we've gotten rid of the giant 1, now we have the limit as x approaches 0 of 1 over the square root of x plus 4 plus 2. And now we can plug 0 in. So everywhere I see x, I'm going to plug in 0. So that's going to give me 1 over square root of 0 plus 4 plus 2. That's 1 over the square root of 4 plus 2, which is 1 over 2 plus 2, or 1/4. So what I know now is that this limit is 1 over 4. And I could find it precisely. Okay, there's one more on this page like that. However, if you want to try the rest of these, you're welcome to. Pause the video, and when you come back, I'll go ahead and I'll have the answers up here and you can look at them. On some, you might just be able to do a direct substitution. On others, you'll have to factor first. And finally, on that fourth one, you'll have to do what we just did with the rationalization. Okay, I'll just show you each group here for a minute. The second one, you should be able to just do a direct substitution and get -2. For number 3, you'll have to factor first, cancel out that giant 1, and then do your direct substitution at that point, which once you do your direct substitution, you get 2/3. And then number 4 is the one where you have to multiply by that conjugate again. And again, all you have to do is multiply these two terms together, which will give you x plus 3, and multiply these two terms together, which will give you -2. Simplify this, get your giant 1. And then at that point, you should be able to just plug in -1. You can write your answer one of two ways. It does not matter to me which way. And then finally, you have the last two, which first one you could do a direct substitution, and the last one you'll have to factor first. Okay, great work, guys.